Joining us live from Sydney now is the New South Wales opposition leader in the upper house. That's Penny Sharp. Penny, good morning to you. So he says that he's the victim in all of this. What questions still remain unanswered this morning?
Well, I think one of the things that Mr Barilaro outlined yesterday very much was how much consultation he did with his colleagues in relation to this. Minister Ayres, the Premier, the Treasurer, Matt Kean, all of them he talked to about this position, and they all encouraged him to go for it, in his own words. So, look, there are ongoing questions just about the probity and integrity of these roles. It's clear that there has been, ministerial meddling the entire way along, and we want to get to the bottom of that. I don't think the community thinks for 1 minute that these jobs should be jobs for the boys, and if you're going to have them, they have to be appointed in the most meritorious, transparent way, and that's just not been the case.
Through the proper processes, yeah. So, I mean, a couple of points that he's brought up here, I just want to get your reaction to when you heard about it at the time. So he says that Treasury created the job through Global New South Wales launch, so it wasn't him. Is that true?
Well, look, there are differing accounts here. Yes, it's clear that Treasury did create those roles. He was the Trade Minister at the time. It was his role to deliver those. We also obviously have previously had evidence from his former Chief of Staff who indicated that he had, he'd expressed a view about those roles. Now, Mr Barilaro did contest that yesterday. But no, look, it's very clear that Mr Barilaro knew about the roles. He took actions that suggested that it was going to be easier for him to apply for them in the future, and I think that still stands.
Okay. He says he didn't know that he endorsed Jenny West for the role because on the paper was a signature, but it was a digital signature that he was unaware of because he signed so many documents, being away, bushfires, etc. Is that possible?
No, that one we utterly reject as being reasonable. Electronic signatures are the same as the minister's signature. The fact that he knew about that role, he's saying he didn't recall that. Well, it's one of two things: either he doesn't, he didn't believe it was happening, or he, deliberately has said that he doesn't recall that because it puts him in a lot of trouble for the actions that he took next to then try and change the process. Right. So, look, we think it's an extraordinary revelation. This is a senior minister paid a lot of money oversighting all of these positions. The idea that he did not know that Jenny West had been appointed and that he'd signed off on it, as, by the way, Minister Ayres and Treasurer Perrottet had, is a real problem.
So what else did you call BS on?
Look, I think the idea that he was just a private citizen applying for a job, it was very clear yesterday that he'd spoken to the now Premier 5 or 6 times during the process. He was tipping off Minister Ayres that he was going to apply for the job in social and other settings.
Barry Farrell.
He was clearly talking to other ministers about those roles. Yes, the final thing I was going to say, we also found out who his referees were. Not many people could get Barry O'Farrell to be their referee.
Yeah. You also highlighted some figures, quite interesting figures have emerged too on the London gig. Stephen Cartwright's appointment to the UK as the Agent General. Some huge expenses aired by Channel 9, totalling tens of thousands of dollars. That's got to be paid up by the taxpayer. Are these positions worth the expense? What are your thoughts on those claims?
Well, look, these new claims really are outrageous. And Chris Minns, our leader's already said, if we're elected next year, these senior positions, the 6 positions, including the Agent General in London, we don't believe they can be justified. Trade for this state's very important, but this sort of luxurious living off the taxpayer of New South Wales, attempting to be paid even more than the Premier is, we just think just doesn't wash. Okay,
you don't think the Premier is in the clear here?
I think there are more questions to be asked. We've expanded we've expanded the terms of reference for the inquiry to look at the matter and in particular this Agent General role. It's clear there's been lots of discussions, probably way too much ministerial meddling, but we want them to come clean on that and we'll keep asking the questions.
Okay, just final one here. Do you have a thought on Matt Kean as the Deputy Liberal leader?
Look, it's a matter for the Liberal Party. Clearly it's been a pretty messy discussion. I think that Mr Elliott probably really wants the gig, but he's stepped back for now. The Liberals will decide who they think is best this morning.
Right, and just a final one here. What's to come on Friday?
Well, we have Mr Barilaro back. We think that there are more questions to be answered. We'll be working through that. The government's providing more documents this week. I mean, they've been very slow to provide the documents ordered from the upper house. So we anticipate that we'll have a bunch of questions for Mr Barilaro that will go to this issue and more of his involvement and the to and fro between himself and Investment New South Wales.
OK, Penny Sharp, thanks for joining us this morning. Thank you. We'll talk to you again soon.